Then on Sports Central, we go over a March Madness game preview and prediction on the round of 32 matchup between the Duke Blue Devils and the Michigan State Spartans. Huge matchup coming up here in the round of 32. You got Duke, of course, who's got plenty of pressure on them right now as they head into the round of 32, obviously continuing Coach K's final run in March Madness. But despite that, still there's tremendous talent on this Duke team, and this team is very capable of continuing on their run into the Sweet 16. But they're facing off against Michigan State, who is a dangerous basketball team. They had a huge win over Davidson in the first round, and Michigan State out of the Big Ten definitely is a team that they definitely have a goal, and that is to end Duke's run in this tournament. So that said, should make for a good one. We'll be going over a full game preview and prediction on this matchup here today, starting out with your team trends. Duke 29-6 overall heading into this matchup. So you got the Blue Devils, who are obviously one of the most talented teams in the nation. They're a 2 seed, and they're a young basketball team for sure. But despite that, this team has got plenty of talent to make a run in this tournament. And they had that huge win over California State Fullerton in the first round. They overall dominated that game, and it was a 78-61 final score. And Duke overall, it didn't look like they were in trouble by any means at any point in that game. So that's certainly a good sign. They were 16-4 in ACC play this season and 2-0 in games against the top 25. So they really didn't play many teams that were ranked over the course of the season. They played 2 and beat them both. But that is something to note there, is that Duke hasn't, they've played a tough schedule, but not an extremely tough schedule in comparison to some teams in this tournament. Michigan State 23-12 overall, 11-9 in conference, and 4-8 in games against the top 25. So you can see the Spartans, of course, have played definitely, they've played a lot more ranked teams than Duke has. They've played 12 in comparison to Duke's 2, but Michigan State's been 4-8 in games against the top 25. So, Michigan State, you could say they've played a tougher schedule, but despite that, they were 4-8 in games against ranked opponents this season. Games going to be on Sunday, March 20th this afternoon, Greenville, South Carolina, and your tip-off is 5:15 p.m. Eastern. Spread's going by Duke here, 6.5 points right now. Over-under is 146, and their BPI is going Duke, 77.6%. So Blue Devils are definitely favored in this matchup. Not surprising seeing that, obviously, the higher seed. And Duke, of course, is... it's an interesting situation for them right now. This is a very unique situation, one of a kind, really. And, you got a young basketball team in Duke. That's kind of the main concern that I've got with the Blue Devils. They got talent to make a deep run, but, how is this team going to do with all the pressure? They've got as much pressure as anybody in this tournament. You got Coach K's been coaching for over 4 decades, his last time in March Madness, and I can guarantee you all those players really want to send him out on a high note. So, and that's a big deal. That puts on some extra pressure. So, it's just a matter of how this team handles the pressure. And, they handled it well in the first round. It's just a matter of, now they're playing a much better opponent here, Michigan State. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, BPI is favoring Duke pretty significantly, 77%. Tournament run, Duke, of course, over CSU Fullerton, 78-61. And Michigan State beat Davidson, 74-73. That was a close game. A very physical, close game there against Davidson, and Michigan State got the win in the end. Stat comparison for this matchup, Duke 80.2 points a game this season, 67.1 allowed, and their BPI rank is 11. And in comparison to Michigan State, 72.1 points a game, 68.4 allowed, and then your BPI rank is 32. So Duke, obviously offensively, that's really where this team shines. They score an average of 80 points a game, which is outstanding. And their defense has been good too this season, allowing 67 points a game, which isn't a terrible stat by any means. So Duke, we've seen this team, they've performed very well and overall consistently over the course of the season. Michigan State, 72 points a game, though. This team is pretty balanced offensively and defensively. They're overall obviously just a talented basketball team, and their BPI rank is 32. Some notable matchups as well. Duke, of course, they beat Gonzaga at one point this season by 3, beat Kentucky by 8, lost to Ohio State by 5 at one point. They were 1-1 against North Carolina, and then they were 1-1 against Virginia Tech. So, and that's really the most significant, or the games that they played the best opponents there. So they beat Gonzaga and Kentucky, their 2 best opponents that they played this season. They beat both of them, but despite they did lose to North Carolina and Virginia Tech once, and lost to Ohio State at one point by 5. And as for Michigan State, they lost to Baylor by 17 at one point. They lost to Kansas by 13. So they have played the top 2 teams in the Big 12 over the course of the season, and 2 1 seeds in this tournament. Lost them both by a decent margin. They're 1-1 against Purdue, 0-2 against Wisconsin, and lost to Iowa by 26. So, I mean, obviously they don't have the best resume against good basketball teams. They beat Purdue once by 5, but obviously they lost to Wisconsin once and got absolutely destroyed by Iowa at one point as well. Some key points: Duke 29-6, just had a dominant win over CSU Fullerton. This team in particular, I mentioned this before, they got plenty of pressure on them, and obviously that can make it a lot tougher to do well when basketball is a sport where, I mean, pressure does make a difference. And I mean, Duke, this team in particular, they are young, but they do have tremendous talent. That's why I think Duke is a team that definitely can still make a run. Is I feel like their talent in general is just it's outstanding for sure, and I feel like this team is very much built for a deep tournament run this season. But for Michigan State, this is a gritty, a very physical group with Michigan State. They definitely know how to win games, and I mean, they are a dangerous team in this tournament for sure. They had a close one over Davidson in the round of 64. Team's got huge potential, but inconsistent, as we saw over the course of the season. And they're a physical team once again. They've played a tough schedule as well. So Spartans know how to play tough opponents, even though, I mean, they've played plenty of tough opponents. They just haven't had the most success against a lot of them. But that's it. Let's get to the prediction here for Duke and Michigan State. Obviously, huge matchup coming up here in the round of 32 this afternoon. I'm going with Duke to get the win here. 72-60 is my predicted final score. This is a tough one to predict, as tough as it gets. You got two teams that definitely have got reasons why they'll win this game, but I feel like Duke in the end, they're the more talented team. I got to go with the Blue Devils to get the win here, but I mean, this is as tough as it gets. Once again, it's going to be close. If you're asking me, I'd be surprised if it was lopsided towards either side in this matchup here. Probability 55% towards Duke. Your over-under is 146. I'm going to take the under for this game and Michigan State to cover the 6.5 point spread. I do think Michigan State, there is a good chance that they cover this game. I'm pretty confident picking Michigan State to cover, but picking which team to win is obviously a challenge. But I do think Duke, once again, this team, they played well over CSU Fullerton the first round, and obviously that team is nowhere near as talented as Michigan State, so it makes a difference. But seeing them look, I mean, they overall played a clean game against CSU Fullerton, and that kind of sets the tone for the tournament. I feel like Duke is going to continue that in this matchup. They get the win by 2. Let me know your thoughts and comments below on this game, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.